New York City, 8 days after the Helix escape. They had been driving for 8 days straight, trading the wheel every 4 hours, sleeping in snatches at rest stops that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. The Charger was running on fumes and prayer by the time they crossed the George Washington Bridge at 1:12 a.m. Nia had not asked why they were going to Harlem instead of straight to New Orleans. She had felt it in the current the same way you feel a storm before the first drop falls. A low, steady pressure behind the eyes, a tug north instead of south. Micah Reed had been a name on a viral clip Tyreek showed them the night they left California. 30 seconds of a man in a hoodie, spitting fire so pure the concrete cracked under his feet. Tyreek had replayed it 5 times, eyes shining.
Listen to this brother. He talking like the city taught him grief and gave him a mic for graduation.
The clip had ended with Micah looking straight into the camera and saying,
"If the Conduit ever needs a stage, Harlem got one."
No one had known then that the Conduit was asleep in the back seat with gold circuitry crawling up her neck like ivy. Now they were here. Harlem never slept. It just changed keys.
Drums talk stories older than dust. Roads hum low like trust, like rust. 808 thumbs, heartbeats echo deep. Buried secrets waking from eternal sleep.
11:47 p.m. on a Thursday that smelled like rain that hadn't decided yet. The basement beneath the shuttered barbecue spot on 145th was packed wall to wall, air thick with weed smoke, sweat, and the kind of anticipation that makes your skin buzz before the beat even drops. They called the night the wake up.
I walk in calm, you panic. You only hot, cause they gas you loud. Your line's thin like that paper wristband. I snapped once, crowd fold your whole big plan. It's that Cipher in the atrium. You talk loud, but we ain't afraid of him.
Micah, mouthpiece. Reed stood at the edge of the Cipher circle, hood up, beanie low, arms folded, so the sleeves hid the gold beginning to crawl under his skin. He had come to listen tonight, not speak, but the circle kept calling him. The beat was a low, sinister loop, 808s rumbling like subway trains under your feet, hi-hats sharp as broken glass. Then the beat cut dead. Before Micah stepped in, Lily did. She had slipped away from the group the moment they descended the stairs, drawn by something older than explanation. Blonde curls loose tonight, no headband, no apology. Gray-green eyes going soft violet under the red lights, like she had just come from a funeral and decided to preach the eulogy herself. She stepped into the circle barefoot, Jordans left by the door like shoes outside a mosque. The room simply stopped. Her spoken word was low and deliberate, every word placed like a stone in still water.
I was taught to love only the parts of me that didn't make white folks uncomfortable. The parts that let me slip through the cracks of their questions. Mama paid for schools that taught me how to fold myself into smaller silhouettes. Had a smile just wide enough to keep the curiosity polite. Grandma sat me on her knee when nobody was looking. Traced the map of my face with a finger that still remembered Senegal. Said, "This nose crossed an ocean in chains. These lips kissed Sicily before it knew the word for exile. This skin caught every shade the Atlantic tried to wash away." I spent years learning how to disappear in my own reflection, how to straighten the wave, how to soften the name. I became the almost in every room, the "but you're not really" that followed me like a shadow with better manners. I was the safe kind of different, until the lights came up, and the truth refused to stay cropped. But blood remembers what mouths are told to forget. Every curl I pressed out still rose up singing when the steam cooled. Every ancestor I was taught to bury stood up in my veins tonight. Tonight the mirror cracked, and I finally saw the whole frame. Not the filtered version, not the footnote they let me be. I saw the daughter coming home. I saw the prayer they tried to edit, the verse they tried to mute, the light they tried to dim, but couldn't quite compute. So let these curls be my crown. Let this skin be my scroll. Every shade of me, a story the world still needs told. I used to hide from my reflection. Now I look it dead in the soul and say, "Peace, Queen. You were never the exception. You were always the goal."
She let the silence do the rest. Then she placed the mic gently on the floor, like returning a borrowed heart. The basement exhaled. Micah watched the whole thing from the edge of the circle, eyes wide like he had just heard the life story of a sister he had not met yet. He picked the mic up slow, reverent.
That was deep.
He whispered into it.
You took that round.
Then he opened his mouth and made the concrete answer back.
I watched the city swallow my brother on Lennox and Dyer. 17 frames of truth skipped while the badge turned liar. They zipped the scream in a body bag, labeled it justified. But the concrete kept the echo, and the echo multiplied. So I resurrect every syllable they tried to erase from the pavement. Turn every fracture into scripture, every blood stain into a statement. They built the projects like ziggurats, told the captives touch the stars, then acted shocked when the stars reached down and left permanent scars. Your silence is a coward's prayer, wrapped in legislative lies. Mine is the sound of a million dead rising with open eyes. You call it riot, I call it the drum, relearning its violence.
He never raised his voice once, but the room bent. The bass hit so low, the floor vibrated like a drum scheme. Cracks spiderweb from under his teams, tracing perfect beeves in the concrete. Phones lifted to record. Half the screens froze on a single frame. Micah, mid-verse, gold light fracturing from his mouth like he was spitting scripture made visible. The other half glitched into static, shaped like a dinkra. Micah felt it leave him. The verse, the grief, the gold, felt it pour into the room and keep going, down through the foundation, into the subway tunnels, into the roots of buildings that had watched Garvey march and Malcolm preach and little black boys bleed on sidewalks for existing. He opened his eyes.
I'm overloading your circuits with verses that burn through compliance. Your sermons collapse like stock markets the day the poor stop praying. Your gods all bankrupt, your prophets all decaying. I'll storm your marble temples with the names you never spoke. Split your empire into ashes that the wind already choked. I'm the hourglass, bleeding backward, inevitable, unreversible, turning every law you wrote into something irreversible. Your justice is a puppet show, strings made of fear and debt. Diversity on the brochure, equality never met. Face it, you're hollow, you'll never ascend. Like children walking through fire with no coat and no end. I'm the voice of the cracked concrete, the sermon and the siren, the last breath of every martyr turning into a choir.
The beat cut clean. In the vacuum, the room detonated. Cheers, tears, fists in the air. Micah stepped back from the mic, chest heaving, eyes far away. He found Nia in the crowd without trying. Their gazes locked. He did not know her name yet, but the current did. And it had just introduced them the only way Harlem ever introduces legends, by making the concrete testify. Outside, the rain finally decided. It fell hard and righteous, washing gold dust from the cracks into the gutters, carrying the verse block by block, burrow by burrow, heartbeat by heartbeat. Micah walked out into it without a hood. Behind him, 4 strangers who were no longer strangers followed. The blood remembered, and Harlem had just become its loudspeaker.